Boeing just started building something that makes China nervous. A fighter jet that can fly over 1,000 miles deep into enemy territory without being detected. Mach 2 speeds. Stealth technology that makes the F-22 look outdated. And here's the part that should keep our adversaries awake at night. It has already been secretly flying for 5 years. The F-47 isn't just another fighter, it is the weapon that changes everything. The Air Force calls it the world's first 6th-generation fighter. Our enemies call it unstoppable. And in 2028, it takes its first official flight. But here is what they are not telling you about America's most deadly fighter jet, March 21st, 2025. The location is the Oval Office. President Trump stands before a room filled with military brass and media to announce a massive $20 billion contract to Boeing. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth steps forward and calls it a direct message to America's enemies. But this announcement wasn't actually about a new plane. That is the misconception. The F-47 had been flying in complete secrecy since 2019. What changed that day was simply that the world finally learned what American air power looks like in the 21st century. For decades, America dominated the skies with the F-22 Raptor. We built 185 of the most lethal air superiority fighters ever conceived. These planes were so advanced, so far ahead of their time, that Congress actually made it illegal to sell them to anyone, even our closest allies. But the F-22 first flew in 2005. 20 years have passed since then. China has been busy, Russia has been watching, and the threats facing American pilots today are nothing like what we faced back then. Surface-to-air missiles can now reach farther than ever before. Enemy fighters are getting stealthier. America's dominance needed an upgrade, and that upgrade finally has a name. The F-47. Let's talk about why this fighter jet exists. It is not because the Pentagon wanted something flashy or expensive. It is because China has been preparing for war. In the Pacific, Chinese missiles can now strike American bases before our planes even have a chance to take off. They call it anti-access area denial, or A2/AD for short. Picture a wall of missiles, radar systems, and defensive networks stretching hundreds of miles from China's coast. It is a fortress of sensors and weapons. Any traditional American fighter trying to penetrate that space faces immediate destruction. The F-22, as incredible as it is, has a combat radius of about 600 nautical miles. In the modern theater of war, that is simply not enough. Not when Chinese defenses extend 1,000 miles from their mainland. So, our Air Force faced a simple but terrifying question. How do you win a fight when the enemy can hit you before you even reach them? The answer was to build a fighter that goes farther, faster, and remains completely invisible while doing it. The Next Generation Air Dominance program started back in 2014. DARPA, the same agency that brought us the internet and stealth technology, began studying what air superiority would look like in the year 2040. They asked Boeing and Lockheed Martin to build experimental planes. And let's be clear, these were not prototypes. They were not test models or computer simulations. These were actual flying aircraft designed to prove these new technologies worked. And they did it in total secrecy. By 2019, the first X-plane took flight, a second followed in 2022. These weren't concepts on paper. These were real jets flying real missions, testing real combat capabilities. For 5 years, American engineers pushed the boundaries of what is possible. Hundreds of flight hours, cutting-edge sensor systems, stealth technology that makes radar operators think they are seeing ghosts. All of it leading to one singular goal, the F-47. Now let's get into what makes this fighter so deadly. The first factor is range. The F-47 has a combat radius exceeding 1,000 nautical miles. That is 1,850 kilometers of operational reach. Compare that to current fighters, and you are looking at roughly a 25% increase. That might not sound massive on paper until you realize what it means tactically. American pilots can now strike deep into enemy territory, complete their mission, and return home without ever entering the most dangerous parts of enemy airspace. They can operate from safer bases farther back, they can stay in the fight longer, and they can control more battle space than ever before. The second factor is speed. The F-47 flies faster than Mach 2. That is over 1,500 miles per hour. But here is what matters more than top speed: supercruise capability. This jet can cruise at supersonic speeds without using afterburners. Why does that matter? Fuel efficiency and stealth. When you light up afterburners, you become a giant heat signature on enemy sensors. It's like lighting a flare in a dark room. Supercruise lets you stay fast and stay invisible. The third factor is stealth. The Air Force describes the F-47's low observability as Stealth Plus. The F-35 gets regular stealth, the F-22 gets stealth plus. The F-47 is in a category of its own. We are talking about broadband all-aspect stealth technology. That means the jet is invisible to radar from every angle across multiple frequencies. Even its infrared signature, the heat it generates, is drastically reduced. Enemy missiles that track heat won't find it, enemy radar won't see it, and by the time anyone realizes it is there, the mission is already complete. But there is something else. Something that makes the F-47 unlike any fighter before it. It doesn't fight alone. The jet is designed to control drones in combat. These aren't your basic surveillance drones. These are collaborative combat aircraft, or CCAs. Fully autonomous, armed, and expendable. The first models, the YQF-42A and YQF-44A, will fly alongside the F-47, taking on reconnaissance, electronic warfare, and even strike missions. Think of them as intelligent wingmen. They absorb the first wave of enemy fire. They jam hostile radar. They saturate defenses so the F-47 can move through untouched. The Air Force plans to build over 1,000 of them. This isn't just a fighter jet, it is a command center in the sky. A pilot in the F-47 controls an entire fleet of unmanned aircraft, all working together to dominate the battlefield. No enemy has anything close to this capability. Here's where it gets really interesting regarding the timeline. Most people think the F-47 is brand new. They heard about it in March when Trump made the announcement. But the truth is, this jet has been flying for years. Remember those X-planes we mentioned? One took off in 2019, another in 2022. They weren't sitting in a hangar somewhere collecting dust. They were flying combat test missions, hundreds of flight hours. Real pilots pushing these machines to their limits, testing stealth coatings, evaluating sensor fusion, and running simulations against advanced enemy defenses. All of it classified, all of it invisible to the public eye. General David Alvin, the Air Force Chief of Staff, confirmed it after the contract was awarded. He said, "These experimental planes quietly laid the foundation for the F-47, proving that America could push the envelope of technology with confidence." That is military speak for, we have already done the hard part. Boeing didn't just win a design competition. They built classified facilities worth billions of dollars before they even won the contract. That is confidence. That is commitment. And that is exactly the kind of partnership our military needs when facing threats like China. But here is what makes this even more impressive. While Boeing and Lockheed Martin were competing, both companies were flying their own demonstrators. That means America had at least 2 different 6th-generation fighters in the air at the same time, both testing different technologies, both proving different concepts. The competition wasn't just on paper, it was happening in the skies over classified test ranges with real aircraft performing real missions. And when the dust settled, Boeing's design won, not because it looked cooler, not because it was cheaper, but because it delivered the capability the Air Force needed to win wars in the 2030s and beyond. Now, let's talk about what this jet actually looks like, because there is one feature that has everyone scratching their heads: Canards. If you look at the concept images released by the Air Force, you will see small wing surfaces just below the cockpit. These are called Canards, and they are common on highly maneuverable fighters like Russia's Su-30 or Sweden's Gripen. They provide extra lift and control, making the jet more agile in dogfights. But here is the problem. Canards aren't exactly stealthy. They create additional surfaces that reflect radar. They disrupt the smooth angular lines that stealth fighters rely on. So, why would Boeing put them on the most advanced stealth fighter ever built? Some experts think it is misdirection. The images we have seen might not be the real design. They could be counterintelligence, showing adversaries a false configuration while the actual jet looks completely different. That wouldn't be surprising. The military has done this before. Remember the F-117 Nighthawk? Nobody knew what it really looked like until it was already operational. Others think the Canards serve a specific purpose we don't understand yet. Maybe they are designed to work with new flight control systems. Maybe they enhance performance in ways that outweigh the stealth trade-offs. Or maybe they are retractable, hidden during stealth operations and deployed only when needed. We won't know for sure until the jet is officially unveiled. But here's what we do know. The F-47 is designed to outmaneuver, outrange, and outfight anything our enemies can throw at it. If Boeing kept the Canards, there is a reason, and that reason probably involves capabilities we can't even imagine yet. Beyond the Canards, the rest of the design follows modern stealth principles: sharp angles, blended surfaces, internal weapons bays to avoid external radar signatures, and advanced composite materials that absorb electromagnetic waves. Every detail is engineered to make this jet as close to invisible as physics allows. And let's not forget the cockpit. This isn't just a pilot sitting behind a control stick anymore. The F-47's cockpit is a networked command center. Pilots receive real-time data from satellites, ground sensors, other aircraft, and their own drones. Artificial intelligence helps process all that information, highlighting threats, suggesting tactics, and managing drone operations. The pilot still makes the decisions, but they do it with more information, faster processing, and better tools than any fighter pilot in history. So, what will the F-47 actually do? What missions will it fly? And why does it matter so much? The answer comes down to one word: China. America's military has spent the last 2 decades fighting wars in the Middle East. Counterinsurgency, close air support, precision strikes against terrorist networks. Our planes were designed for that. The F-35, for all its capabilities, excels at ground attack missions. But the next war won't look like Iraq or Afghanistan. It will look like the Pacific. China has been building up its military for decades. They have got advanced fighters like the J-20 and now 2 6th-generation prototypes already flying, the J-36 and the J-50. They have aircraft carriers, hypersonic missiles, and an integrated air defense network that stretches across the South China Sea. And they have made no secret about their intentions toward Taiwan. If conflict breaks out, American forces will need to operate in the most hostile airspace on the planet. That is where the F-47 comes in. Its mission is simple: penetrate enemy defenses, destroy high-value targets, control the skies, and get out without being detected. It is designed to fly deep into Chinese airspace, take out command and control centers, obliterate surface-to-air missile sites, and clear the way for follow-on strikes. And it does all of this while enemy forces don't even know it is there. The Air Force plans to buy at least 185 F-47s. That matches the current F-22 fleet exactly, which tells you this isn't just a supplement. It is a direct replacement. Every F-22 getting phased out will be replaced by an F-47. And unlike the F-22, the F-47 is designed to be more sustainable, more supportable, and easier to maintain. That means higher availability, more jets ready to fly at any given time, and a stronger overall force. But there is another layer to this. Trump mentioned that modified versions of the F-47 could be sold to allies, toned-down variants without the most sensitive technology. That is huge. It means countries like Japan, Australia, and South Korea could eventually operate their own 6th-generation fighters. That strengthens our alliances, it creates interoperability between allied forces, and it sends a message to China that they are not just facing America. They are facing an entire coalition armed with the best technology on Earth. For veterans and active duty members who have spent careers defending freedom, this jet represents everything you fought for. It is the next generation of American air power built to keep our nation safe and our enemies at bay. Of course, nothing this advanced comes without challenges. Cost is the big one. Initial estimates put the contract at $20 billion, but that is just the beginning. The entire program, including development, production, and sustainment, could reach hundreds of billions over the jet's lifetime. The F-35 program is projected to cost $1.7 trillion. The F-47 won't be cheap either. That is why the program was paused back in 2024. Then Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall hit the brakes when costs started climbing. He ordered a study to determine if the jet was even necessary. Could drones do the job? Could existing fighters be upgraded instead? Was this the right investment? The answer came back in March 2025: yes. The study concluded that there was no viable alternative to NGAD for achieving air superiority in contested environments. Drones alone wouldn't cut it. Upgraded F-22s wouldn't last. America needed the F-47. So, the program moved forward. Boeing started production in September 2025. The first jet is being built right now in St. Louis, Missouri. The goal is a first flight in 2028. operational capability shortly after, and full deployment in the 2030s. But there are still questions. Will the design change before it is finalized? Will the Air Force order more than 185? And what about the Navy's F/A-XX program, which is developing its own 6th-generation carrier-based fighter? Boeing is competing for that contract too, and their proposal looks remarkably similar to the F-47. If Boeing wins both, we could see a family of 6th-generation fighters dominating the skies for decades. Then there is the geopolitical pressure. China is moving fast. Their J-36 and J-50 prototypes are already flying. Russia claims to be working on the PAKDP interceptor. Even European nations are developing 6th-generation fighters through collaborative programs. The race is on, and America can't afford to fall behind. Thankfully, we are not. The F-47 isn't starting from scratch. It is built on 5 years of proven testing. It is designed by the same company that produced legendary aircraft like the B-17, the B-52, and the F-15. And it is backed by the most capable Air Force the world has ever seen. Here is the bottom line. The F-47 isn't just a plane, it is a statement. It says that America will always stay ahead, that our pilots will always have the best tools, that our enemies will never catch up, and that freedom, security, and strength are worth investing in. For those of us who have served, who have worn the uniform, who have seen combat, this jet represents the future we fought to protect. It is proof that the sacrifices made by generations of service members weren't in vain. It is a reminder that America doesn't build second-rate equipment. We build the best, and we make sure our people come home safe. The F-47 will fly missions we can't even predict yet. It will face threats we don't fully understand, but it will do so with technology, capability, and lethality that no adversary can match. And that is exactly what America needs in an uncertain world. So there you have it, the F-47, the world's first 6th-generation fighter. A jet that has been flying in secret for years, built to dominate the skies for decades to come. If this video showed you something new about American air power, hit that like button and subscribe. We cover the latest in military aviation, defense technology, and the stories that matter to veterans and patriots. Thanks for watching. Stay proud, stay informed, and we will see you in the next one.